Garry Kasparov was once a hero in his Russian homeland. At 22, he became the youngest ever undisputed chess world champion. He did something few in Russia dare to do. He questioned the regime of Vladimir Putin. One stage, even trying to run for president himself. In 2013, Kasparov and his family left Russia in fear of persecution. He's since become one of Putin's most prominent critics. And today, Putin imposed martial law in the 4 Ukrainian regions supposedly annexed by bogus referenda by the Kremlin. Tens of thousands of civilians are being evacuated from the Kherson region ahead of Ukrainian counter-offensive. So I'm glad to say Garry Kasparov joins me now. Thank you very much. Great to meet you in person. I grew up a big chess fan and was a huge fan of your play. And I'm sorry that I'm only interviewing you about such a horrendous situation as the war and not about chess. But I want to talk to you about, in a way, what is going on there has become a bit of a chess game, in the sense of Putin thought he'd take it all very quickly. He got repelled by resilient Ukrainians. We're now into all sorts of pieces being moved around. What's your take on it?
Look, I feel very uncomfortable comparing this massacres, horrible things to the game of chess. People being killed as we speak.
I'm talking more about tactics, I guess.
Yes, but also, even when we look at tactics and strategy, I would still compare it to more like poker.
Yes.
Putin kept bluffing for years and years, and he always knew that, you know, if he was bold enough to raise the stakes, the opposite side, and for him it was always not Ukraine, it was the West, NATO, and the United States. The opposition would fold the cards, and that was his plan. I attack Ukraine. They will not be able to resist in 3-4 days. I take Kyiv, and then they come back to the negotiating table. Now it's a war, and Putin does what he knew best. He keeps killing civilians. They already did it in Grozny more than 20 years ago. They did it in Aleppo. And it's not surprised that the Russian general who is in charge of the operation in Ukraine today, he's known as a butcher of Aleppo.
When you see people like Elon Musk proposing that there should be some kind of peace deal, what do you think of that?
Absolute nonsense. You know, what kind of peace deal? So it's Ukraine has to be liberated. It's anything short of full liberation of Ukraine is a disaster, not just for Ukraine. It's not just for Europe, for the world. Because we are seeing a dictator that, as you know, 80 years ago, trying to take foreign lands by force, and he's not going to stop there. Putin made very clear his plans were not just to take a couple of regions here.
He wants to restore the Soviet Union, right?
It's probably more. I think Putin is at war with the collective West. Again, it's not me saying that. He has been saying it over years, and his propaganda machine keeps repeating it every day now, 24/7. The war is about destroying Ukraine. It's about eliminating Ukraine as a nation and also replaying the Cold War. He believes that, you know, with force of will, he can compensate for the deficiency of his troops and to force the collective West, led by the United States, to capitulate. Putin is not at war with Ukraine. Every day they keep saying, we are at war with NATO, with America, we must win.
Can Ukraine win?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's another Putin's narrative that is being trumpeted by some of his agents of influence. Ukraine needs our support, but they cannot win. Why not? Ukraine received less than they needed to win the war, but more than Putin expected. And they're doing great. They already endured great difficulties, sacrifices. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed in this conflict. 1/3 of the country has been decimated. And look, they are pushing back. Ukraine is doing today what NATO was built for in 1949, saving Europe from Russian invasion.
Yes.
And look, they dismantled the myth about the strengths of Putin's army, having, by the way, very little from NATO arsenals that could have helped them to win the war quicker.
I think 93% of Ukrainian people don't want to give an inch, but 7% of Ukrainians apparently do have some sympathy with territory being given back as they see it to Russia. What do you say to those people?
Look, I think it's this 7%, whatever the number is. I think they want to end this nightmare.
Right. They want the death and killing.
Exactly. Because, look, if you are just being harassed day and night, as we speak, Kyiv is being attacked, and you want somehow to get out of that. And if you live somewhere in Western Ukraine or you know, just even in Kharkiv, you say, maybe we should give up something. But the fact is, look at this 93%. Even living in this hell, they still don't want to give an inch.
When I was there, Garry, I was in Ukraine in July interviewing President Zelensky and the First Lady, and I was really struck that everybody I met, old, young, didn't matter, to a man and woman, to a boy and girl, they didn't want Zelensky to give an inch to Putin. No deals.
But that's the message we have to communicate to Americans, to Brits, to Germans, French. This is our war. Ukraine is defending our ideals. Ukraine today is the front line of the battle between freedom and tyranny. And the outcome of this war will define our future, not just, Ukrainian territory or, Eastern Europe. It will affect, the whole world, from Taiwan to Venezuela. God forbid Ukraine loses. Taiwan is in great danger. Ukraine wins. Look what's happening in Iran now. I think the wind of freedom is blowing around the world. And Iranian mullahs, even just being in great danger because of all these demonstrations, they understand it. They're sending everything they have to Putin because they know Putin's survival is the only chance to stay in power. And that's why we see dictators gathering together. Why not we can do the same? Why not America and NATO could be far more aggressive in pursuing this our common goal? Ukraine must win.
There are Americans, a lot of them Republicans, surprisingly, it seems to me, who don't want America to commit any more money to this war. They say it's not America's war. What are we doing there? What do you say to them?
Look, back in 1939, 1940, so there was ironically also Republicans. Many of them talked about making a deal with Hitler. So it's America first. It's not original. It comes from 1939. Don't send weapons to Britain. It's not our war. No, it is our war. And I think many of them are the short-minded, because again the consequences of Putin winning, they could be felt everywhere. And the fact is, let's say, okay, Ukraine is a war caused food problems. Taiwanese war could cause a major disruption with semiconductors. And also America's businesses and America's well-being is very much based on the rule of law and the normal international trade and communications. Everything will be in jeopardy if you let the most dangerous dictator on the planet, a war criminal, to have it his way.
People say Vladimir Putin, is he mad or bad? What do you think? Or both?
It's probably both. And again, I don't want to speculate because whatever we hear from Putin's bunker, should be treated with great suspicion. I don't know, and I don't want to waste our time in analyzing whether he's mad or bad, whether he'll do this or that. We should look at the facts. We should look at the battlefield. We should do at what we can do to help Ukraine, and also stop speculations about him, pushing the button, because that's a big argument.
Do you think he ever would? I'm not asking you to speculate. I'm aware.
No, look. The answer is he might, but this is not for him to decide alone. And the key is, that we have to demonstrate our resolve to his generals and admirals that they will pay the consequences because they will be on the front line. If they know that the cost of pushing the button is their personal life, they will never do that.
That's what I think. Are you worried for yourself? You're so outspoken about Putin. You've been fearlessly so for many years. We know what happens to people in Russia who are outspoken about him. Are you worried about your own security?
Okay, I don't live in London. I live in New York.
Right.
So, but the answer is yes, but would it help? I mean, I can't stop doing what I've been doing. So that's why I grew up, I learned from Soviet dissidents. Do what you must and so be it.
Well, you're an inspiration to me as a chess grandmaster. You're an inspiration for what you do now. Thank you very much for what you do, Garry Kasparov.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you.